Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today we have some embossing folder scene backgrounds created with Simon Says Stamp embossing folders and some adorable brand new Anita Jeram Colorado Craft Company images. I love combining products from multiple companies to create adorable scene cards. These 3D embossed backgrounds are fantastic for combining with some of your favorite critter images. So first we're going to take the SNOWFLOCKED Hills embossing folder. I embossed this on a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel of Bristol Smooth cardstock. Then we're simply going to color it in with some Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. Depending on what kind of coloring medium you want to use, you can definitely change up the paper that you're going to emboss. So for example, if I was going to use Copics, I would more than likely use Nina 110-pound weight. But because I am doing a watercolor type technique with zigs specifically, I am using the Bristol Smooth cardstock. Next, I am going to color in the sky. I did flip my panel upside down. This was just easier for me to color it this way. And I laid the deep blue right against the snowbanks there. And then I'm going to color in the sky with deep blue and blue gray. This is a favorite color combination of mine for a winter type scene. I originally thought I might try to avoid some of those stars in the sky, and I pretty quickly realized that was going to be crazy, and so I'm going to just go ahead and color over them. Now I'm pulling the deep blue color up with my blue-gray marker, which is the lighter color, but I don't want to color that entire section. That's about 1/3 or so of the whole card panel, and that is an awful lot to be coloring in with a single marker. I started with my water brush pen, but I pretty quickly decided that that was also going to take forever because I only have a fine tip water brush pen. So what I'm going to do, and I did go ahead and color the whole thing in. I guess I was a little glutton for punishment there, but I am going to color that, but I don't like the brush strokes that I'm seeing in the background. So what I ended up doing was taking a nice wide flat brush and a little bit of water, and I am going to smooth that out across the sky. It's going to give a much nicer finish. Now, I don't want to do that right away. I have pretty well saturated the cardstock here, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of let that air dry a bit. I added a little haze blue to the snowbanks, just a very, very light pin mark right along those snowbanks with that light blue color, and then I will soften those edges a bit with the blender pen. And I apologize, I'm a little out of frame here. I think I had it zoomed in a little too close. I will zoom out so that it's a little easier to see everything I am doing. I am going to do 2 backgrounds here in the video today, so hopefully that will give you a pretty good idea because both are created basically the same. It's just 2 different backgrounds. If you love these backgrounds and want to see another in real time, no sped up at all, please check out my YouTube live video from Friday, November 19th. I will link it at the end of this video. I used another Simon Says Stamp 3D embossing folder to create a scene card, and I actually created 2 different cards, one on camera, and then I finished the other card off camera because both backgrounds are the same, but those feature some lawn fawn and mama elephant skating critters on a frozen pond, which is super fun. So kind of very much the same idea as these, but again, in real time in live format. There I smoothed out the sky with that wider paintbrush that I showed you. I really like how the sky looks now, and so I will be doing the same thing for the second background, which you'll see here in a minute. For the trees, I am taking mid-green and olive green. I'm laying down my darker color first, kind of just doing a quick feathering technique, and then blending out with my lighter color. You definitely don't have to hit all of the areas on the tree. In fact, I somewhat prefer not coloring it in. You get more definition for the tree, Plus it also looks like it maybe has a little snow on it, which I love. So very, very quick coloring. This might seem super intimidating, but it honestly was one of the quicker parts of this background. Both of the backgrounds I'm sharing today were created very quickly. That live video I was telling you about, it has a different technique because it has a lot of trees in the background for quickly applying color to the background. So definitely at least check out the first part of that video if you want to catch another idea for adding color to some embossed raised areas. I am going to flip my paper a little bit. Again, keep my hand out of the water-based inks, and I'm just going to color this in very quickly. So we've got all of our little trees finished, and then we've got these two a little bit bigger trees more in the foreground. Now I did pre-plan my cards ahead of time, so I knew which images from the Anita Jeram Colorado Craft Company Christmas release I wanted to use for this. And the images we're going to be using for this cute card are the Santa Bunny and then a little mouse holding a stocking. I did this very assembly line style, so you're going to notice I'm going to do all of this background, then we're going to do all of the next background. We're going to add some splatter snow with gouache on here. I am going to use that to give it a snowy look. It's one of my favorite things to do. And then we are going to stamp, color, die cut, and finish off the cards. That's going to be sentiments, images, and all of that good stuff. I know I've mentioned this probably every time I've done an Anita Jeram video, but the dies from Colorado Craft Company that coordinate with these images die cut so close to the images. They die cut all of the detailing so nicely that I really, really love using the coordinating dies with this. I'm a die girl myself. I personally, you guys remember this probably from Stamp Timber if you've been around, where I did so many cards that didn't have coordinating dies, so I had to come up with unique and fun ways to create with those. And I love that challenge, but I also really, really love coordinating dies. I would prefer not to fussy cut if at all possible. I know I've heard from a lot of you that you feel the same. And then there are those of you who actually really love to fussy cut and don't like the white outline. I love just kind of hearing all of that from everyone. So I'm kind of double checking my images. I'm going to make sure everything is going to fit the way I think it's going to. That first background is all the way colored. I will often double check a lot. I'm playing around with some sentiments. I know for sure I want to use Here Comes Santa Claus, Here Comes Santa Claus, but I need to figure out what else I want to use because I feel like there's a lot of space in the upper part of this card. My next background is the snowy path. This is such a gorgeous background. I love the fence. It's a little bit something different than there has been in the other cards. I'm also starting on my little snowbanks here instead of the sky, which I don't normally do, but I just laid down a little haze blue. I'm going to blend it out with the blender, and then I will color in the sky. I do want to mention that I think that can be like a little stream or a little icy pond in between those snowbanks. I'm really kind of ignoring that fact for my card. The image I'm going to be using is big enough that I think it will disguise the fact that there's that little icy pond, but keep that in mind if you have other images. I also think these embossed scene backgrounds would be amazing with maybe some smaller type silhouette images. I'm thinking like Hero Arts. Hero Arts does a great job at having stamp sets that have some of those silhouetted images. I think you could really create some fun things with those. And then there's a new stamp set from Simon Says Stamp called Season of Joy that was in their limited edition card kit. It's also available for individual purchase, as well as the dies, but it has like a silhouetted deer and some little things like that that I think would work really nicely with these scenes. So here is where I got a lot smarter, and I am simply taking that wide paintbrush and I am smoothing out my deep blue and blue-gray colors to fill that sky. And I'm not worrying too much if some of the blue gets on the tree. It's going to be okay. pardon me, I can't talk. Once we get the green on the tree, it really kind of disguises it. It doesn't have to be super perfect. If you kind of take that perfection out of it, you will find that you love these backgrounds. Once you get everything else added in, I think the depth, dimension, and detail is amazing. And I love that this looks so dimensional and it's one layer. What can be better than that? Next, we are going to take some browns and color in the fence, which is probably my favorite detail on this scene, just because it's something a little bit different. And I noticed I had quite a bit of water on my work surface, so I went ahead and dried that up first. I'm adding mid-brown and beige to my fence. And I'm just kind of coloring slow here. When it's white on white, it can be a little tricky to see, so I just tend to take my time. The tips of these markers are nice and pointy, so it does make coloring pretty easy. And again, don't worry if you get out of the lines a little bit. There were places I got out of the lines a bit, but I didn't worry about it. And I don't think in the finished card it is something that's going to be super noticeable. I also chose to do no line coloring for the images from Colorado Craft Company that I'm using for these scenes, which I think really lends itself beautifully with these backgrounds. For the trees, we're doing the same technique that we did on the last card with mid-green and olive green. So just kind of laying down my dark color first, pretty sloppily, and then we'll blend out with the lighter color. Now I'm going back in with my light color and just simply blending out those darker colors. I love this shape of this tree here. The trees on this scene are just slightly different than the last scene. And in fact, different than the other background I did in the live. And so I think they're really fun. Got a couple more little trees here, and then it's going to be time to add some snowy backgrounds. So I really like adding snow to these backgrounds, as I think it just gives a whole nother layer of the depth and dimension and really adds to that holiday type scene that we're trying to create with our images. I did go ahead before adding my snow, and I'm going to go in with a white pen and add detail to those stars in the sky. So really quickly, it's best if your background is completely dry. Mine had dried for quite a while, and so I went ahead and did that. And then I've got a box to protect my work surface. I've got some white gouache I'm going to water down with just a little bit of water. This makes it much more spreadable, and then I'm going to tap that all over the surface for snow. And I was pretty generous. I want a lot of snow. I want the snow not only over the sky, but over the hills and the trees and all of the things. And I'm just going to keep tapping that. And then once I am done adding the snow to the background, we are going to set these aside to completely dry. While we work on stamping and coloring and all of that, that should be plenty of time to allow those backgrounds to dry all the way. I've got 3 images now from 3 different stamp sets, 3 of the brand new stamp sets. We have the bunny hanging a stocking on the tree. That is the Getting Ready set. We have the little Minnie Mouse holding a stocking from the Stockings Mini. And then we have the Santa Bunny from the Santa Bunny set. The only set I ended up not using an image from for today's cards is the Hiding Presents. However, we are going to use a sentiment from that set. I kind of mixed and matched among the 4 new sets for my 2 cards today. They work together beautifully, as well as they're going to work with any Anita Jeram sets that you may already have. Now, I accidentally forgot to turn on my camera while I colored in that tree. So the colors for the tree and the snowbank. So the snowbank is haze blue, just like any of the snowbanks I colored in the backgrounds. The tree is mid-brown and beige, and the leaves are mid-green and olive green. Then our bunny is platinum brown and gray tint with a little blender as needed and pink haze for the cheek and the inside of the ear. I always color in the image first. I'll trace it out with my darker color. In this case, that's platinum brown. Blend out all the colors, and once I'm happy with the coloring of the image, I will take a black fine tip pen and add in the detail. So for this bunny, that's going to be the eye, the little whiskers, and then like the little pores or spots on his face where the whiskers come from. I felt like those, oh, and his mouth, pardon me. Those places needed to have some pen detail. Faces are super important when doing some sort of critter, and you want to make sure you draw that detail back in. For the little bow around his neck, I want that pop of red. So there's a lot of neutrals going on here, and I want the bow to be red as well as part of that stocking that he's hanging on the tree. So I am using a combination of deep red, carmine red, and light carmine. Often I will only use carmine red and light carmine, but the deep red really adds some nice shadowing and depth and dimension to the red images, and I really recommend it. This is not something I've done for a long time, but it's something I've started doing recently, and it's one of my favorite tips for kind of giving that Christmas red and not just a super kind of bright cherry red. Let's go ahead and color in the main part of the stocking next. Normally I don't color anything red until I've colored the other areas, but I think I can get by with it this time since I'm going to be using a dark green next to the red. But if you're worried at all about your red maybe bleeding into that area with the tip of your marker if it touches it, go ahead and color like the toe, heel, and cuff of the stocking first, and then color in the rest of the stocking. You can even go back in with your darker red marker if you feel like you've lost some of that depth and dimension, or any of your dark colors for anything you're coloring, and kind of just add in more shading. I added in a little bit more shading here and didn't bother to blend it out because I wanted that nice definition. I'm going to use deep green and light green for the toe, heel, and cuff of the sock, as well as the little stocking holder. I'm going to trace it out with deep green, blend out with light green, and then we're going to go back over all of those areas with the deep green marker and draw in some little stripes for an added fun little detail. There's two little birds on this image, as well as an additional bird in the getting ready set that you can stamp and die cut separately. I did not use that individual bird. I really thought about it and then ultimately decided not to. I didn't feel like there was really a spot for him on the card. So up at the top of the tree, we have a little bird, and then we have one down here standing on the ground. Both of these are going to be colored the same with deep brown, oatmeal, a little medium beige, and then light brown for the beak. I know light brown sounds like it's going to be a brown color, but it almost has a tint of orangey red to it, I would say. I kind of call it an orange. So I thought it was perfect for the beak and some detail on the birds. The standing bird has some little footprints in the snow, and then his legs, I will say I colored in the legs black, which is what I wanted to. I didn't color them. I traced them with a pen. But the footprints in the snow I also did in black, and I really should have done those in haze blue, but oh well, too late. Just a little note there because I'd noticed it later, like way later after I did my card, and thought that that would have been really cute. Once I have the coloring and shading done for my birds, I will go back in with some of my darker colors and maybe add in like some feather detail. I like to take the tip of the marker and just kind of add like little dots or whatever, something similar to that for a little added touch of fun. Don't forget to take a black pen and draw it back in the eye, as it adds a lot of detail to those cute little birds. So again, a lot of neutrals, and that's why the red on the bow and the stocking are so important, because it really makes the design pop. Let's go ahead and color in that last bird really quick. And then I did die cut my image. Sometimes I get so anxious to see the finished result that I will die cut an image before I get the rest of them colored. To do this, I simply lined up my die, taped it in place with a little repositionable tape, and then cut just this area out of my paper and ran it through the die cutting machine. I also noticed I had forgotten the bunny's tail and I wanted it to be nice and light, so I basically went around the tail with a gray tint marker so that it has a little cotton tail. We'll get this last bird colored in and then die cut our image and lay it on the background to get an idea of what our holiday design is going to look like. I would love to know in the comments what your favorite brand new Anita Jeram stamp set from this release is. Mine is probably Santa Bunny, but this image is a close second. But I really, really loved coloring in the Santa Bunny. So there you can kind of see the image in the upper right corner of the screen after I die cut it. We're going to start with the small little mouse from Stockings Mini. This is a great little mini set that's going to work back with many of the other maybe holiday sets you have from last year or whatever. And I didn't use it because I didn't really have a place for it on these cards, but I absolutely love the little tiny branch with a stocking hanging on it, and it has a little bird on it. So that is another image in this little mini set. It comes with 3 different sentiments and 2 images. A lot of bang for your buck here, even in a tiny little mini stamp set. At the end of the video, I will be showing you all 4 of the brand new stamp sets, so definitely stay tuned for that. Normally, I wouldn't say that I like mice, but I love the Anita Jeram mice images. So I gave this little guy a green stocking because Santa Bunny is going to have a lot of red. So I did incorporate some green. He's going to have a green toy sack and then, of course, a little green stocking. I noticed I forgot the pink on my bunny's cheek, so I did go in and do a little bit of that. I always like to give him a little bit of a pink cheek. I think it's a fun little touch. And now it is time to color in Santa Bunny. So I did make sure and keep the red to the very end. I don't want red bleeding into the fur, cuff, or hem of the coat. We're going to color in the bunny first with platinum brown and gray tint with the blender as needed, and pink haze for the inside of the ear and the pink on the cheeks. And then we will also be using gray tint and the blender for the details, the fur around the cuffs and trim and stuff on the coat. And then we'll work on coloring the rest of the image, but again, I made sure that I colored everything else and then we'll do the red. This image also looks like it's standing on a little bit of snow, and the dies cut very close to the snow images, which I actually really, really love. So it just kind of gives the hint of the snow, which blends really nicely into the hills that we colored with our Haze blue marker at the beginning of the video for the backgrounds. So now we're going to do a little gray tint. And to get that fur look, you're going to notice that I'm taking the tip of my marker and I'm really just kind of doing a squiggly line. I'm also going to do this when it gets to the point where we need to color in the red. We need to kind of squiggle the red next to the gray so that it keeps that look of a faux fur trim on the coat. We're going to go around all of the gray sections. Just doing that little squiggly line. And then we're going to blend out with the blender. And even though right now it looks pretty gray, as we're blending all of this out. When we get the rest of the colors next to that, it's going to appear white with some nice shading. Here's my haze blue for the snow along the ground. And then the belt buckle is going to be that light brown color. So that's kind of the same color I used for the beaks on the birds, but it'll give a nice kind of golden look for the buckle on the jacket. And then we're going to use a little natural gray and gray tint for the belt. And I love the details. So there's buttons down the front of the coat. There's the belt, the little holes along the belt, just lots and lots of great detail. I'm trying to figure out which gray marker I want to use, I think. I didn't want to use the same ones I used for the bunnies. I wanted something a little bit darker, so that's where I went with the natural gray. We're going to double check that and then color that. Now, this is the toy sack will be next, and I did do that in green. I kind of kept two traditional colors for my card. I probably could have gone ahead and done that in red, but I really do like the little pop of green, and it's a different green color combination than the trees, so it will show up nicely. I really like that it's a bright, happy green. It's the same green color combination we used for the stocking on the first card, and then the little mini stocking here that the mouse is holding. That's going to be deep green and light green. There's so much detail to this, so I'm going to trace out the bag with my deep green marker first, and I want to make sure that I am adding in like all of the shading and things like that. And I love how the bunny's kind of holding it in its hand, dragging it behind him. And this time I did make sure and color the green first because we have a lot of red to color for the coat, and I did not want that to bleed. So I'm going to kind of go around the edges and pull that deep green color out, and then just gradually kind of go towards the middle, adding that color. Now for the coat, there's lots of great detail for depth and dimension. So kind of where the arm meets the side, I'm going to go in with that and draw in some extra, or add some extra color on the hood of the coat where it kind of folds over. And here I'm going along the trim, and you'll notice that I will do like a little squiggly line, just like I did when I was doing the faux fur trim, so that it keeps that look. This is the deep red color that I'm using to trace everything out. And then we're going to pull that color out a little bit more with Carmine red and finish with light Carmine. Look how cute, you guys. You really can kind of start to see it once we get all this red added to the coat. And then I kind of couldn't tell what one little area was. A lot of times with no line coloring ink, it can be hard to tell. Don't be afraid to reference your stamp so that you make sure and get things colored just the way you want. Finally, we're going to finish with light Carmine. Oh, I love it. And then we're going to die cut our images, and we're going to be ready to glue them in place and add all of the finishing detail. I did add a little natural gray for the buttons going down the coat, and then filled in the little holes in the belt with the red marker. couple of these stamps have the Anita Jeram signature on them, and instead of leaving it as is or trying to line it up and stamp it in black ink, I simply just traced over it with a black fine tip pen. I do like that it has that little signature there, and so I went ahead and left it. So here are my 2 cards with the finished die cut images. So much fun. I'm going to figure out my placement, figure out my sentiments, and then we're going to stamp and emboss some sentiments on the background using different greetings from the sets. So I really mixed and matched. For the Santa Bunny card, we're going to use the Here Comes Santa Claus phrase, and we're going to stamp and emboss that on white on the sky. And then for our Getting Ready card, the bunny hanging the stocking, that sentiment, Merry Little Christmas to You, is from the Stockings mini set. I love the size of this. I think it's so cute and fun, and it just fills that little space right above their tree perfectly. It looks like kind of like they have a sad little stick tree there, but it's really, really cute. I'm going to stamp and emboss this in white so it'll be nice and soft. It blends into the sky and it really coordinates with the scene beautifully. I'm using a little Hero Arts white fine detail embossing powder to emboss my sentiments. Once we have this embossed, I am going to go ahead and glue my image in place. Even though this is only one image, it's so detailed that it almost looks like the bunny and stocking, the tree, and the birds are all separate. So I really think that it looks fantastic, all finished. I'm just going to pop that cute little die cut image right there on our scene. Oh my goodness, I absolutely love it. Let's go ahead and stamp our sentiment for the Santa Bunny card. I'm going to position Here Comes Santa Claus just right above the horizon tree line there, leaving room up above it to add a Merry Christmas. I actually played around with lots of different sentiments, but ultimately decided I liked the small little Merry Christmas from that Hiding Presents set. I liked that it had a coordinating die and could be a separate piece on the card. A lot of the Anita Jeram sets do come with a sentiment that you can die cut, at least one, sometimes 2, and I really do enjoy that with their sets. Not all of them usually, but there are a few, which is kind of fun. There is the Here Comes Santa Claus. Let's go ahead and glue our Santa Bunny and our little mouse in place. Look how cute they look against this scene. I just absolutely love using these 3D embossing folders for backgrounds on scene cards. Very cute. Okay, I'm going to grab some white cardstock now and stamp the Merry Christmas from the Hiding Presents set using Lawn Fawn Lobster ink, which is my favorite red ink color. You guys may have heard me say this a time or two, but it's my very favorite to use for red. I think it's a really nice bright red. I'm going to stamp this and then we will die cut Merry Christmas with the coordinating die and pop it up on our card with a little foam adhesive. I like the little pop of red up in the sky because there is so much sky visible on this card. There's a lot of sky visible on the other card as well, but since it's landscape format, the image is a little taller, plus the trees and things are just, it fills in the space a little bit more than it did on this particular design. And so I liked having a little bit of color pulled up into the top part. Now, once we have our greetings, it's time for the finishing details, which is one of my favorite things to do. I went with my favorite go-tos, which are some little red hearts, of course, and also some little clay snowflakes. So these are both from Trinity Stamps. We have some vanilla sugar snowflakes, and then we have the candy, or actually these hearts are not from there. These are from a viewer. Teresa sent these to me, and they come in a wheel of color, but you can also get some little red hearts from Trinity Stamps. I think you can also get them from Honeybee Stamps, probably several places. I love them. So I did a trio of red hearts on the Santa Bunny card, and then we're going to do a whole scattering of snowflakes all over the sky. And we're going to kind of do the same thing for both. However, I did only add one red heart to the stocking bunny, kind of right below the sentiment. I felt like that was the best place for it. And then we are going to fill the sky with the snowflakes. I adhered both of these panels, which do measure 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, to either a top fold card base or a side fold card base. I love the Simon Says stamp pre-cut and scored card bases. This is what I use for probably 99.9% of my cards. So here is a look at what I used from what set. So this sentiment is from the Stockings Mini. Then we're using the image from the Getting Ready set. For our Santa Bunny card, the mouse is from the Stockings Mini. Our bunny is from Santa Bunny, as well as the Here Comes Santa Claus sentiment. And finally, Merry Christmas is from the Hiding Presents. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these embossing folder scene cards featuring brand new Colorado Craft Company images. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. I want to give a huge thank you to my Patreon members. If you would like to join Patreon, please click the link in the description box below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we will catch you next time.